We saw Assembly Bill 1263 banning code for firearms parts for 3D printers, as well as Senate Bill 704 forcing transfers and purchases of firearms barrels to go through a registration and a background check, get signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom. What is the next step for these laws as they have now been signed, and how are they going to affect the firearms community? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. If 5 videos were not enough per bill, as we have done throughout the 2025 legislative session, we're here today to round out a couple of bills as the legislative session has ended. These bills have been signed into law. So today I thought we could go through firearms barrels as well as 3D printed firearms parts. To walk us through that today, we've brought back the CRPA legislative director. He's also the host of Firing Line Radio. You can catch him every Saturday at 1 p.m. on the Firing Line Radio on AM 590, The Answer. That is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, before we get into this today, as always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the videos. It really helps get the information out there. And as we are looking forward to potential litigation and laws coming into effect, we want to be aware of this stuff. We want everybody to be aware of this stuff so that we can abide by these laws so long as they are there. Obviously, our intent would be to get them stricken from the record. But like I said, like, share, and subscribe. It really helps get the info out there. So, Rick, let's just go ahead and dive on into this. Jacob, if you could pull this up from the Legislative Digest, here is the final version of Assembly Bill 1263. It reads like this. This bill would prohibit a person from knowingly or willfully causing another person to engage in the unlawful manufacture of firearms, or knowingly or willfully aiding, abetting, prompting, or facilitating the unlawful manufacture of firearms, including the manufacture of assault weapons or 50 BMG rifles, or the manufacture of any firearm using a 3-dimensional printer or CNC milling machine as specified. The bill would make a violation of these provisions a misdemeanor. And here's the one, guys, I want to remind you, whenever we're hearing this, I want the dollar bill signs to be ringing in your head. By creating new crimes, this bill would create a state-mandated local program. This bill would also include computer-aided manufacturing files as a digital instruction and include the manufacture or production of a machine gun and specified firearms components, including large-capacity magazines, as part of the definition of digital firearm manufacturing code. The bill would also authorize a person who has suffered harm in California as a result of a violation of these provisions to seek compensatory damages and injunctive relief. The bill would create a rebuttable presumption that a person violated the provision of unlawful distributing or causing to be distributed any digital firearm manufacturing code if the person owns or participates in the management of an internet website that makes digital firearm manufacturing code available for purchase, download, or other distribution to individuals, and the internet website, under the totality of the circumstances, encourages individuals to upload, disseminate, and use digital firearm manufacturing code to manufacture firearms as specified. Okay, Rick, so there's a whole lot of words there. It's definitely attacking a couple of things. Can you just go through for us what exactly is this bill stated from the author supposed to be doing versus what we've kind of been arguing this whole time, what it looks like it will do to the firearm community?
Okay, so I want to touch one thing off the top. So I've got a lot of questions, obviously, since this was signed into law. It's disappointing that, despite the number of videos we did on this, despite the number of places I spoke out on this, despite monthly reports and weekly reports to various groups, that more people didn't get involved with this earlier on. And then all of a sudden I get signed into law. Now everybody's upset about it. That's not the time to get upset. The time to have gotten upset was when it was first introduced back in February of this year. So this does go into effect January 1st, 2026. And one of the things is we're working with several other groups to bring a court case out on it because it's wholly unconstitutional. And the reason is the distribution of digital code and technical files clearly violates the First Amendment. And that, for everyone to have the talking point, is based on the federal court decisions, most notably Defense Distributed versus the U.S. Department of State, which said you cannot, will not, shall not, all the nots, stop people from using digital code and digital files. So that right off the top, the author knows this. He was told repeatedly, this is a violation of the U.S. Constitution. It's unconstitutional. Here's the thought process behind this. And, I don't like playing the blame game. So, but you have to sometimes say, where did people get this idea, Kevin? And where they get the idea for these kind of things is numerous television shows, movies have shown somebody, a bad actor, using a 3D printer or some other digital machine to build a firearm that's completely elusive, can get through, metal detectors, everything else, even though they have metal bullets in it, which is an interesting concept because metal detectors pick up ammunition all the time. But they are able to get into an area and then able to commit a heinous crime and take someone's life with one of these firearms. Now you go, like I said, back to reality, and you're not going to be able to do that. People are going to want to debate that largely based on Hollywood and what they've been shown. But the facts are, when you talk to law enforcement stuff, there can be a mistake, but probably not. This is built on that. But here's where it's actually hurting us. Our people aren't out there to build those kind of firearms. What our people are out there to do is replace parts or make firearms safer or test ideas out. That's what these digital files are being used for in the status quo. And so now you have a firearm that, compared to you have an older firearm and you have an older classic car. The classic car parts aren't being made anymore. So what do people do? They go to CNC machines, they go with digital codes, and they build that part custom for their car so their car can be safe, their car can retain its value, the car can be enjoyed, and the car can be preserved. Many people do the same thing with their firearms. And now, and this is the tweak on this, they are saying we're making life safer by stopping this code, when in actuality, they're depriving people of the right to exercise their Second Amendment right by keeping their firearm in serviceable condition through the use of a CNC machine and 3D digital files to keep it safe. And people are going to lose safety. So they're creating a negative situation with this bill.
And I guess, I was kind of thinking about it, and it's like there were a lot of sinister bills that were making its way through the legislature. I was kind of thinking to myself, like, how does this one sneak through? Is it being undersold? But it seems kind of like what you're saying is that it wasn't necessarily undersold. It's looked at as a huge issue on the other side, but mainly because of a misconception through Hollywood. So what's the rationale that you see that a bill like this ends up getting passed as opposed to all the other ones that didn't this year?
So there's a couple of things that, I'm probably going to be questioned on, but I'm just going to tell you where I see this. Gibson, the author, is terming out, which means he will no longer be in the Capitol after 2026. Gibson is looking for, a way to make money and to keep moving forward and to be the darling, because it's a hard fall to come out of the Capitol and go back to reality. And so you have groups that are funded by some of the biggest billionaires on the planet that love to operate in this space and tear apart the Second Amendment. And, I'm going to make the comment that, Gibson's going to take this bill and he's going to go state to state. And here's the problems with this. For some reason, our community doesn't want to wake up. But here are two great examples. On the hunting side of the house, we had the let's get dogs out of bear hunting. And everybody's like, well, that won't go anywhere else. We can move to and insert whatever state. That went all the way back to Maine. Maine, one of the biggest bear hunting states, followed that law. Now, the people of Maine got a clue that that was stupid and they reversed that law. People of California have been yet to reverse it. And the author of that bill got to have like a 3-year run going back and forth across the country, getting paid on all these trips, getting stipends, getting supported by various nonprofit groups that are anti-bear hunting. And in reality, nature got messed up. A lot of things happened negatively. None of the positives happened. Well, you can say, I don't want to listen to the hunting argument. Well, fine. Then let's go to the 11% excise tax that no one enjoys in California. Multiple members of the assembly tried to get that bill across. We called it the zombie bill because we kept killing it at the last moment, year after year after year after year. And finally, they were able to get it through and a last minute deal on the floor with a lot of shenanigans. They got across. Did did the author Gabriel stop there? No. Gabriel went on a multiple state tour, and now we have excise tax in multiple states. And they're trying to normalize it and make it like it's going to be a federal thing, which is why I look at everybody that watches these videos and say, quit saying that's just isolated to California. It's not. Gibson is going to take this across the country, and all of a sudden people are going to be like, how did that happen? It happened because we never ever, and when I say we, I'm talking about our community, never correct people. We're sitting around the water cooler, we're sitting with our friends, we're talking to our buddies, our coworkers, and so he's like, oh, I saw this cool movie, and they did blah, 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 blah. Or I saw this, blah, blah, blah. We never stop to say, well, you would never do that. You know, it's like anybody that owns a firearm knows if they've had decent training, you do not want to give up your tactical side by going around searching the house when you hear broken glass. That is the last thing you want to do because the advantage goes to the other person. You want to wait for them to come to you so you can maintain the advantage and defend yourself, protect yourself, do things of that nature. This we don't talk about stuff like, oh, that's not real, that's not reality, that's made up, that's Hollywood. So in the average Californian and American's mindset, oh well, I saw it on TV, I saw it at the movie theater, that must be a real deal. And that's how a bill like 1263 gets through is because A, the author knows, hey, mass media has told everybody this is a scary thing, and I'm the superhero that's fixing the scary thing. And I can take this on a roadshow to multiple states and make money and keep being popular and keep being the big person. There's no harm or loss for them. For the California taxpayer, there's the cost of implementing this bill, as you said, and there's the cost of fighting it to correct it over multiple years and the damage it's done and how many people could have an accident that would have been preventable had this bill never came into existence.
Well, I guess you could reference things like the Clinton Foundation for just more proof that it's definitely common practice for politicians to set themselves up after they're out of office to continue and have some sort of income that way. So not necessarily surprising there, but definitely good to know that there is precedent within the court system already that's going to aid any lawsuit that gets brought up on this. So definitely some positivity to look forward to there. Let's go ahead and move on to Senate Bill 704. This one has to do with firearms barrels. Jacob, if you could pull it up, let's read the final version of this bill as well. It reads like this. This bill would, except as specified, prohibit the sale or transfer of a firearm barrel as defined unless the transaction is completed in person by a licensed firearm dealer. The bill would also prohibit a person from possessing a firearm barrel with the intent to sell or offering to sell unless the person is a licensed firearms dealer. Commencing on July 1st, 2027, except as specified, the bill would require the licensed firearms dealer to conduct an eligibility check of the purchaser or transferee and to record specified information pertaining to the transaction, including the date of the sale or transfer. The bill would make a first and second violation of these provisions punishable as a misdemeanor and any additional violation punishable as a misdemeanor or a felony as specified. The bill would require the department to require a licensed firearms dealer to charge a fee up to $5 for each firearm barrel eligibility check as specified. And of course, dollar sign, you guys, by creating a new crime, this bill would create a state-mandated local program. So, Rick, I mean, this one seems a little bit more straightforward than 1263. If you want to sell or purchase a firearms barrel, you're going to have to go through an FFL, and you're going to have to go through an eligibility check. And as always, the government is going to take more tax money to create a local program. Can you go ahead and break this one down kind of like you did the last one? What is the incentive behind the author or the idea behind the author of how and why this is supposed to work versus, what's actually going to happen to the firearms community once it's implemented?
Look, the left has learned that coming after us with the death by 1,000 cuts, if those cuts don't make us bleed, they don't work. And so, lots of different modifications have been done in California so we could keep our firearms, and they effectively don't win. We allow ourselves to continue to go to the ranges and exercise our constitutional right. What they're trying to do is one thing that sells in America is whenever you can make something elitist, you make the general population hate it, across the board, doesn't matter what it is. So how do you take something that's not elitist and make it elitist? Well, because you make it more costly. So, you look at when you and I first entered into the firearms ring as young people, young adults, or in my case, I was like 9 when I first started really doing this with any kind of seriousness. The costs back then for ammunition, the costs for the firearm were like nothing like they are today. I mean, today we're talking 6, 7, sometimes 20 times, depending on what the activity is, more expensive now than it was back in the day. And that's even using comparative things. Well, why is it that way? Because California keeps finding ways to tax everything. So it used to be, and let's just take the barrels. It used to be, you bought your firearm was great, and then, if there was an issue that you wanted a better barrel to be put on it to make it more accurate because you'd fallen in love with target shooting, you bought a barrel. But now the state is like, oh, we can tax that too. Okay, this is the equivalent of you buy a car and you decide, hey, I want to put a better carburetor on it, or I want to put better headlights on it, or I want to do this because A, you want to perform at a better level. The state doesn't add an extra tax. Yes, you'll pay a sales tax, but they don't add an extra tax. This is adding an extra tax on top of the sales tax. Like they're just taxing, and what they're trying to make it is so expensive that people don't do it. It allows them to use their fear tactic. Hi, my son is out target shooting. The coach says, hey, a better barrel's safer, will improve their accuracy. And now the state's like, yeah, and if you don't pay the money, Rick, he's not going to be as safe. So now I'm forced to have to pay more money, and now it becomes elitist activity because only people that have a disposable income that can do that can do it. The second thing is there's not a current system to make this happen. They cannot use the 4473. There's not the federal forms. And one of the things I'll go back to is one of the things in the analysis of this is it's saying that, hey, you can't sell a barrel. So now this isn't like, up until this law, Kevin, you could have came to me and said, hey, I bought a Creedmoor 6.5, Tika T3 Light. Well, hey, I have one of those. Yeah, I wish I could get this barrel. Well, hey, you know what, Kevin? That's the barrel mine came with, and I decided to upgrade. So tell you what, I'll sell you my barrel. I'll trade you my barrel, whatever. That was perfectly legal. But as of July 1st, 2027, that will not be legal. That will be illegal. This is another place where government is trying to come in between us. And here's the beauty of it. We could do this with any other tool we own. You could come up to me with your Ryobi drill and say, hey, can I try this aftermarket thing for my drill and see if I want to go buy it? Sure, try it. You can't do that with a firearm, Kevin. Like, you can't go put anything on a firearm without purchasing it. And now what they're trying to make it is so that we can't be at the range and you go, hey, can I try out that barrel or can I try that out on my firearm? Before July 1st, 2027, the answer would be sure. But after that, it'll be no. We have to go to an FFL. We got to go through all this paperwork. We got to pay all these fees. And then after you do all that, you may find like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. Well, now you're going to be pretty ticked off because to get rid of it, you're going to have to pay to go through that system all over again. This is designed to make you hate having a firearm.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's pretty easy to see. I mean, you create the deterrent, which is the high price or the elitism, as you so eloquently stated it, that would see sales go down at FFLs. It would decrease the opportunity for people to get access to that kind of stuff, and then you have a decrease in the same areas even more, but also a hit on the consumers themselves who don't want to have to pay an extra $5. And it seems small, you guys. It always seems small, but we already saw it with the ammunition. It starts at $5. That's definitely not where it's going to end up. And a fair point also, and I'm sort of curious, you can't run this through the 4473. What would it take to run it through the 4473? Would they have to classify it as a firearm?
What they're going to have to do is come up with an incredible system that does not exist. Many firearm barrels have no serial number, no way to track them. This is going to be problematic. It's going to give DOJ abilities to be able to jump in and say, well, we had reason to believe when there was no reason to believe. But this is also speaks to, a bigger issue surrounding this. And this is, every one of the bills that got signed, all the authors, including Aragorn, including Gibson, are like, this will save lives. Okay. And this is what our community needs to wake up, and they need to be boisterous about it. So, using this, I say, oh, I eliminated Kleenexes, and that helped my son or grandson never get a cold. What? The two aren't connected. Kevin, I challenge you, just these two bills. Show me where, if digital code had been stopped, months before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, how that would, oh, it wouldn't have. And that's my point. None of these things would stop these horrific bad things that they put in front to say, this is what we're stopping. Other than me and a couple of other people that come into the Capitol that say, prove it, the public isn't standing up. The Second Amendment community isn't standing up and going to their friends, do you hear how stupid this is? Just stop for a second. Here's my talking point. Let's just say magically this bill was intact 2 years ago. Did it stop the Las Vegas thing? No. Did it stop any of the things that they try to cite from out of state? No. None of this stops it. Therefore, it's not about saving lives. It's about ruining a culture of firearms ownership that is a God-given right in this country.
Well, yeah, and there are two very different ways to look at that. I mean, you and I can sit here and talk about how these laws aren't really intended to curb crime or save lives, and then bad things happen, right? So one way to look at it is we need more of this, we need more of this. The other way to look at it is allow people to protect themselves more by giving them their freedom back. And we see that with bills all the time, piling on problems that continue to persist even after you've created multiple laws that you've stated are going to curb these issues. It just really doesn't exist. I completely agree with you. I don't see any way that that criminality is going to be affected by these laws. The only people that are affected by these laws are the people who are honest, hardworking. They abide by the state and the federal laws. They want to do things the right way. Those are the people that are going to be published. And guess what? The anti-2A legislators know that, you guys. They know that. They want to punish those people because they want firearms out of the state, which is why we got to fight back. So, Rick, could you remind me really quick, Assembly Bill 1263, Senate Bill 704, when do these come into effect again?
1263, the digital code ghost gun bill, comes into effect on January of 2026. The bill for the firearms bills comes on July 1st, 2027. And I want to make one last comment, Kevin, to your point. We need to be out there saying Californians overwhelmingly, over 60% of us voted for Prop 36 that was designed to put criminals back behind bars to do all this stuff. Every single one of these authors of these bad bills went out and along with the governor and said, we don't have the money. We don't have the money to do that. We all know that criminals aren't going to quit using digital code. They're going to say, come and catch us. We don't care. That's why they're called criminals. Criminals, none of the gangs, none of the cartels are going to be inspecting firearms barrels or train them legally. They're not going to do that. They're going to do what they want to do. And yet, they have the money for both of these programs. They have money for things like, gerrymandering, redistricting, but they don't have money to keep us safer by enforcing a statewide initiative, which is a constitutional amendment. That's another area where our community needs to be very boisterous.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can either consolidate power or we can, protect people and keep them safer. I think the answer for a lot of these people in Sacramento is going to be pretty obvious as we've seen it over the last decade or so. I know that you guys like the videos that we normally do at the end of every year where we go into all the laws that are going to be taking effect. We will definitely be revisiting these, especially as Assembly Bill 1263 comes into effect January of 2026. But Rick, looking into 2026 and 2027, what are your final thoughts here for these two bills specifically? What does the playing field look like going forward now?
I think both of these will be litigated. I think we will, without a doubt, win because they're both grossly unconstitutional. That will take time. And unfortunately, they're relentless. They're coming at us with more and more bills every year. The fight gets harder and harder. And that's where we need our people to stand up because their attitude is we just have to wear them down. And when good people don't stand up, evil wins.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of a silver lining here, I guess. While 1263 would be litigated, we do have that precedent in the court saying you can't ban online stuff like the code, and also there is a whole year before 704 ends up becoming applicable here in California, so time to litigate there as well. Well, Rick, I know you're a busy guy. I want to thank you for coming on and imparting your wisdom and opinion with us. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And guys, one more time, if you like this content, you want to see more of it, if you want to make sure that more people have it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the videos. It's a great way for you to directly contribute to the litigative and legislative efforts here in the state of California. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you on the next one.